Alright everyone, there's a big looming crisis over Central Asia. Russia has already gotten directly involved diplomatically. Right now, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan are trading border fire, and they're both blaming one another over this, saying, well, oh my god, they crossed over our border with tanks and they attacked an outpost. And the other side says, no, it actually started when several mortars were fired from the other side. We didn't start this, we attacked their border post because we got attacked first. He said, she said, fog of war. It'll be just like with Ukraine and Russia or any other similar engagement. India, Pakistan, North and South Korea. Nobody's going to know really what's going on with this, and more people will die and everyone will suffer, and eventually they'll have some sort of ceasefire that will never lead to a full peace treaty or anything. And here's the problem. When we consider the collapse of the Soviet Union, we should consider it similarly to the collapse of the British or French empires. What happened in the wake of the British Empire collapsing? They carved up an enormous proportion of land that they were holding colonially, and they did it without regards to ethnic blocks. They carved it up to try to create civic blocks, and they installed puppet dictators usually in order to govern them. I find it funny when tankies praise Russia, or the Soviets really, and all of their actions, and they don't realize that basically you're praising something that was only different from any other imperialist experiment in the sense of its economic system. So the Soviet Union was basically an imperialist power that happened to fall broadly into communism, thus limiting their lifespan further because communism doesn't work. They get praised for essentially the same kind of ethnic actions, genocides, etc. that were indicative of like the British, or, well, not really the French. They didn't do that quite as much. They were too busy screwing each other, basically, in their colonies. The French were definitely the ones you wanted to conquer you if you were a third world nation back in that particular time period. Oh, it's shit, we're being invaded. Oh, it's the French? Okay, whatever. Please just let me keep my royal titles under my tribe. Russia, therefore, when the Soviet Union collapsed, did not do the greatest of jobs in Central Asia of restoring what would have been more ethnic blocks. In a part of the world where ethnic blocks take supremacy over civic ones. We see this with the Pashtun, for example, in Afghanistan. We certainly see it with the Shia-Sunni infighting in the Middle East. Again, Britain helped create that. Jews and Palestinians, another British experiment that's, long-term, is rather rocky and leads to repeated conflict. You're going to see that more in Central Asia. Also, there are certain minerals and resources there that are quite scarce in the world at the moment, and these landlocked countries need a way to get to the ocean. And that's going to become interesting over the next couple of decades. And I believe that I mentioned this several years ago about this looming crisis, number one, and I can't remember, but there was somebody who wrote a book, I think in the goddamn 90s actually, on the subject, warning that this would be sort of the next big field of conflicts. Well, you're seeing it now. I guess that their prediction came true. I can't remember for the life of me who wrote that book or what it was called. Should look into it because it sounds interesting. I should do more than just skim through it. Russia's going to undergo a crisis, therefore. While Russia has the military capability of stifling insurrections and revolutions in Central Asia, none of these other countries have what you would consider developed militaries. They're entirely reliant on Russia anyway, do a huge trade with Russia. It should be able to generally stifle these opposition movements. The problem is that Russia is kind of busy right now. It's already had to draft hundreds of thousands of people because it's attempting to take over part of Ukraine, and they're having problems doing that. Does Russia have the spare cash and manpower to send 10,000 people into Kyrgyzstan to prevent a border conflict from erupting there right now? Do they really have that capability? You look at what's happening between Azerbaijan and Armenia. You now have effectively 3 or 4 border conflicts on the Russian border involving states that are connected to it in some manner, including the one that it invaded recently. I don't know that they have the capability of suppressing so many things at once. This leads, of course, to a situation where people will assume that the CIA is involved in some way. Actually, I think what's happening with this particular border conflict, and possibly between Armenia and Azerbaijan, although it's less likely to be sure, is that the simmering ethnic problems that were already there have exploded into border conflicts because Russia's distracted. And so one side thought to itself, well, now would be a perfect time to just have this out. We have 2-to-1 AK-47 superiority. We can probably take them in a fight and then force them to make terms. Russia's too busy right now. Well, let's go to it. We've seen this happen in other parts of the world as well, by the way. The U.S. Sometimes gets distracted in world policing in one place or another, and then some other conflict breaks out, and we don't have the full resources or time or capability to deal with that to our liking. Russia is going to have, it seems, the same basic problem, and this will continue for some years or possibly decades to come. Now, I'm not warning World War III over Tajikistan or something like that. I'm just saying it's going to be a lot of bloodshed, ethnic conflict, shifting borders. Russia may have to take a hands-off, be on the diplomatic school in some of these conflicts. It may have no other choice economically or in the military sense. They're not going to withdraw from Donbass at the moment to go deal with Kyrgyzstan or Armenia. By the way, which side is it backing in the... I think it's just basically calling for comments saying knock it off. It doesn't appear that they even have an opinion on who actually done it. Maybe Russia will use it as a cause to invade and annex one of these countries. They'll say, well, the Tajiks really were the ones that fired first. Fuck you, Tajikistan. And then they march in and they take it over or something like that. They'd have to get Kazakhstan out of the way first, of course, the large Central Asian country with a slightly more developed economy. That wouldn't be a problem, though. They suppressed their revolutionary intent to actually, was it earlier this year or was it last year, I think? And the rest is history. That's about all. Peace out.